All right, guys, welcome back to the Sex and Bacon podcast. On today's episode, I have a lovely guest with me I'm doing an interview with, and I'm really excited for this conversation because it's something I've never even heard about until Belle had reached out to me. So today I have with me Bel Di Lorenzo, and she's going to share with us I'm not even going to say the name of it again because I know like now in my mind I can't even think about it. Okay, so what is it called, Belle?
Pompoir.
Pompoir.
That's
Okay.
perfect.
So I don't know if anybody listening has ever heard of this before. I never had. And then, of course, I did quickly Google it. And what I was reading, I was like, oh, damn, that sounds fascinating. So I'll give you the floor. Take it away. Explain to us what this is and obviously all the amazing things about it.
Okay, well, thank you so much for having me. First of all, I am really, really excited to be here. I love being able to share about this practice. And yeah, to jump right into it, Pompoir is a sex technique, basically. It's a very ancient technique, actually. It's not something new, but it's very much new to the Western world, right? And the closest thing I'd say we have to it in the West is Kegels and Kegel training.
Mhm.
Probably your audience has heard of them. But Kegels are very much what we call the tip of the iceberg when it comes to Pompoir, because as it turns out, the female pelvic floor can do a lot of things. So Pompoir basically means being able to train your vaginal muscles in a way that you're able to control them to do all sorts of incredibly pleasurable motions. So you can twist with your vagina, you can pulse, you can whip, you can squeeze, you can contract, you can suck, you can grip, you can lock, you can do all sorts of motions. And we really talk about a combination of 27 different motions when it comes to your pelvic floor and your vaginal muscles, and it's all using your pubococcygeus muscles. And it really means being able to control your orgasms, of course, being able to provide a lot of pleasure, but also get a lot of pleasure back, which is the most important part of it, right?
Mhm.
And also all the benefits that come with this practice, which are, some of them are really well documented, and some of them are anecdotal that we've been finding out by training women over the years in this practice. But yeah, basically the gist of it is your vagina is incredible and it can do a lot of things, and you can train it to be able to do over 27 unique skills.
So where does this like you said it's ancient. So where does this actually originate from? And was it actually created for pleasure, for sex, or did it start as something else?
So there's a lot of, like, it's really fascinating the amount of origin stories that this has. Some scholars will say that it started with the Hetairas in Greece. Some people believe it started in Thailand. The most sort of commonly agreed upon origin story is with the Devadasi community in India. And so you have the Devadasis, but as you know, India is extremely vast and extremely diverse country. So one specific kind of Devadasis, they were women who married a temple, and instead of marrying a man, they were married and devoted to a temple. And part of their job was to provide pleasure to the male worshippers of that temple. And what is believed, again, it's all it's there's no exact record of this, but what is believed is, as these women, as part of their training, they would train their vaginal muscles to be able to provide extreme levels of pleasure to the male worshippers of the temple. So that's the most agreed upon origin
Mhm.
story of Pompoir. But at the time, it was very much about male pleasure, right? Because imagine if you're able to, like, squeeze a man and tilt a man and pulse a man, and you're able to stimulate the penis in incredible ways, right? But what we sort of did is we took those principles, and then we combined that with what we know today about pelvic floor strength for women and all the benefits that that has. And it turns out that it's extremely pleasurable for women. So that's what we're trying to bring today with our practices, really doing this for your pleasure and your libido, and all the benefits that it comes with training this practice.
Is it hard to learn? Because like when I Googled it quickly, and then like I was reading all of like just like you said, the different 27 different techniques, and I'm like, it's like I was like, okay, I was like, so basically I'm like, I'd have to get a man to lay down on his back. I'd have to be riding them, and then I'd be sitting there being like, "Hey, can you feel it?" And it's like I'm thinking in my mind, I'm like, I don't know that they'd be super turned on or like be
It
like,
wouldn't be too
"No,
sexy,
sorry,
right?
can't feel anything twisting." No, I'm just like, "Fuck. How do you learn this? Like, how is this something that you know that you're even doing it?"
So I love that you mentioned that, because that was very much how I learned it myself. Because when I was looking
Okay.
for this, I actually started reading about this back when I wasn't even having sex. I was very much a late bloomer. I'm very much a nerd, a dork. I wasn't having sex in high school. I wasn't having sex in college even, but I was like a straight A student and an overachiever, and I wanted to be great at sex when the time came, right? So I actually started
Okay.
looking this up way before I actually started having sex. And then with my partner, when I actually started having sex, they were like, "Wait, there's no way you're a virgin. There's no way." But because I was such a nerd and I was just obsessed with being great at it, that was part of what it was like.
I
Just
love that.
it makes
I
no
couldn't even begin to, like, fathom the idea at, like, a young age when I was having sex that I would have cared about, like, them getting off
I
or
know.
being good at this skill. It was just like, "Okay, you lead, you do this," but I love that you took that, like, complete control and initiative over it, but, like, "No, no, when the time comes, I'm going to be the master at this." So,
Oh my
like
god, it's just my type A brain. It's just, if someone could make sex not sexy, it was me. Absolutely, it was just about competition for me. It made no
there's a
sense.
technique to this, and I'm gonna figure it out.
Oh
Like
my goodness. It was kind of like that. And then when I actually, started having sex, it was great. It was fantastic, but I really
Mhm.
wanted to learn this technique. I was really
Yeah.
obsessed with being just incredible at this. Like, I wanted to be the kind of girl that nobody would forget after they had sex with her. Like, that was just my brain.
Every girl's dream. I'm gonna be the best in bed, so he's
Oh
gonna
my
leave his
god.
wife for me.
Yes.
We'll run away together.
Oh
Like, we
my
all have
god.
that thought process that as long as we can
I
fuck them better than anybody else, they'll wanna be with us forever.
I
Like,
know. It's so silly, right? It's so
oh.
silly. But yeah, I definitely still in therapy for that. But yeah, so, but a lot of good came from that, because as I was putting together this program,
Mhm.
my partner at the time, he was very much an entrepreneurial mind, and he was like, "Bel, this is incredible. Like, this is. I know this would benefit a lot of women, and you're young and you love this, but." Imagine, because it's giving you so much pleasure as well. Imagine what it would do for women that normally wouldn't get a lot of pleasure from penetration, and normally wouldn't
Mhm.
would have trouble getting their libidos up. Because when I was practicing this, like, I was, as horny as a 14-year-old boy who just learned how to masturbate. Like, it was insane how much I wanted sex as I was training this, right? Because it's constant mind muscle connection. You're
Mhm.
constantly training your muscles for sex, and you're constantly giving yourself pleasure. So something that I say usually when women start training, I tell them, "Hey guys, just so you know, during your weekly workouts, you're gonna get a little horny, so just
Oh,
expect
so
that, because
you
it's
can
gonna have."
feel and you're
Oh
turning
yeah,
yourself on
oh
while you're
yeah.
doing it. Oh,
Absolutely.
wow.
Yeah, absolutely. It's insane, and especially for women that haven't really yet discovered their G spot or their C spot. If you're more of a clitoral girl, this is pretty
Mhm.
great to start stimulating your G spot and the inside of your vagina as well. Because as you're training, when specific exercises will target your G spot quite well, and so it's almost like you're kind of masturbating yourself, and you start getting horny and horny and hornier as you're training. So basically, that's how I got into it. And definitely, my first experiences with it was me as I was doing the program. I was like, "All right,
Mhm.
baby, do you feel this in the right side of your penis or in the left side? Oh, come on, babe. I don't know. No, no, no. I need you to tell me." And I would write things down. And it was definitely not sex. It was just me writing down
Wow.
that program.
Yeah. That's
And so, yeah,
fascinating.
yeah. Yeah, it was great. It was great, and he likes to say he was the first product tester. But it was really interesting. I was putting this program together, and yeah, we started realizing the benefits that this had for other areas of our lives as
Mhm.
well. So that's when I decided to start training other women. Because again, I was young, I hadn't had kids, so, like, I knew it was going to be different for each woman, so I started training other women as well. And lo and behold, the benefits just started becoming more and more vast. So we started training women that had had kids and had had grandkids, and that had multiple partners, and that had one partner for a while, and women that had a low sex drive, and women that didn't like penetration too much. And lo and behold, every single one of them was getting more pleasure out of sex, and their libidos were increased just naturally. So we,
Mhm.
we we really couldn't understand it. And then I really started researching about this, and I realized all the actual benefits that we have that are well documented about pelvic floor strength. And that's when I was like, there's why are we not talking about this? We can from the comfort of our homes, we can increase our libidos naturally. We can improve the strength of our orgasms naturally. We can get more orgasms. We can get more pleasure of sex. Why is no one talking about this? So that's when we started putting together the program. And yeah, it's been just such a blessing from there, because the women that I love helping the most are the women that are like, we've been married for 20 years with my partner, but like sex, the spark has kind of, died
Mhm.
out, and we want to bring something new to the table, but I don't know how to approach it. And generally, Pompoir is something that usually we found has a really it's like a nice opening of a conversation. So once they start testing things that they're learning throughout their week of training in bed, sex starts becoming more exciting again. If you've been, if you've been with your partner for a while, and sex has kind of taken this connotation of like repetitiveness and routine, and you kind of want to
Mhm.
break that pattern, right? And if you start introducing these new moves and this excitement and this sort of gamified way of having sex, it just becomes really, it just increases from there. It just becomes a new thing, a completely new thing for
Are
couples.
they hard to learn? Like, is it kind of where like each week you learn one technique, like you practice one, and then each of them builds on to that? Like, how do you? I guess essentially, okay, so like let's just take one of the techniques for instance. How do you know if it's working that you're actually doing it internally? Like yeah, explain that to me. Like if I was to take exercise 1 that you gave me, what essentially am I doing? Like I'm laying down in my bed, I'm assuming I'm squeezing certain muscles down there, looking for a certain uh feeling or response kind of to in my own body. Is that really what it stems from? Like at any point are you putting your fingers inside yourself to see if you're squeezing on anything? Like
So that's a great question. So to start from the beginning, it really depends on the woman and the level of pelvic floor strength that they already have. Some women
mhm,
already have naturally very strong pelvic floor. Some women don't. So that will depend a little bit. We do have sort of what we call a ramp up period. So we'll never give you, the program is sort of divided between three types of training. So we have strength and endurance training, we have sort of control training, and then we have sort of directional training. So each of them gets progressively harder and harder. So at the very beginning, we
okay.
want you doing your basic Kegels, but in a way that is with a bit of a twist. As we said, Kegels are sort of the tip of the iceberg of what
Mhm.
Pompoir truly is, right? But Kegel training and like training your strength and the strength of your muscle by doing concentric contractions and eccentric contractions and isometric holds are all ways that you can get your pelvic floor muscles stronger, but not just stronger. You also want to be identifying the different levels of your vagina. So Pompoir really works in three sort of dimensions of the vagina. So you will have your sagittal plane of the vagina, you have the frontal plane, and you have the horizontal plane. And so, for example, with the horizontal plane, this basically cuts the vagina, if you will, in levels vertically. So when you're contracting, which is the most basic exercise, you're working through different levels vertically up from the entrance of your vagina to the very top of the vagina near the cervix. And those are the exercises that will get you started with. And eventually, as you're performing those, um, you're going to get stronger and stronger and stronger, and different methods to get stronger as well. And then you can move on to what we call the sagittal plane of the vagina, and that divides the vagina in the right half and the left half, right? And so that's when you get to the second level, if you will. It's a little bit harder, and that involves squeezing. And squeezing, not just squeezing the right wall and the left wall, you also are squeezing throughout the different vertical levels of those two walls. And then when you get a little bit more complex in the next phase, you work through the frontal plane. You work through the front of the vagina and the back of the vagina, and again you're squeezing through different levels, and you're being able to rock back and forth, etc., etc. Now, you spoke about fingers, and that is absolutely the case. We want women to be touching themselves as they're doing these exercises, so that they can really feel. Your fingers are your best friends here.
Mhm.
I will always say that fingers are a girl's best friends. It's fantastic for this training to have your fingers inside of you. In certain positions, you will feel them better than others. Generally, when you're sitting down in a chair and you pop your fingers inside of you, you're able to feel things much more. And that's when you'll be able to really gauge your strength, gauge the amount of time you can hold an isometric hold for, gauge in which level of your vagina you're squeezing. Because, for example, um, if I'm asking you to pulse at the very top of your vagina, what we call level 3, you're pulsing at the very tip of your fingers inside of you. But if I'm asking you to pulse at the very entrance, you're basically pulsing at the very, at the bottom of the shaft of your fingers, if you will, quote unquote.
Mhm.
So your fingers are fantastic tools to tell you where you're doing the exercises. And we always talk about exercise versatility in terms of like, I want you to adopt the positions during your training, during your weekly training. I want you to adopt the positions that you're going to naturally adopt during sex, because some exercises are a little bit harder when you're on all fours, but they're a lot more pleasurable. So you really want to get used to doing them, performing in those positions. Sometimes you're on top, so you want to be on your knees training. Sometimes you're standing
Mhm.
up when you're having sex, so you want to train. You basically want to be able to adapt to all of those positions and be able to perform eventually every single move in every single position.
Does it take a lot of concentration while having sex to do? Like, is it something where you have to be so overly present and you're thinking of the action that you're doing while you're doing it? Or does it become second nature where it just kind of you do it?
So I would say first it depends on the exercise. There are some exercises that are a little bit more complex. So those are mostly to show off how awesome you are in bed, but those are usually extremely pleasurable as well, especially paired with some sex positions. So some will
Okay.
require a little bit more thought, but most of them they will be a little bit counterintuitive at the beginning of the first time you perform them in bed, but then after that they
Mhm.
absolutely become second nature. So a lot of women will have trouble squeezing for the first time because that's involving your lateral walls, and that's a lot less intuitive than contracting, which is your basic kegel that we do. We do it when
Right.
we hold our pee. That's very basic, right? So it's not intuitive at first, but once you start doing it, it just becomes second nature, and it's so pleasurable in bed that it's just a natural reflex that you'll have with your
Yeah.
body.
How long is this program?
So the program, you have it forever basically, but in terms
Mhm.
of how long you need it, generally I'd say most women can learn. It really depends on the strength of your pelvic floor, but I would say in 12 weeks you learned every single exercise. You're able to twist, you're
Okay.
able to tell. Yes, generally it's 12 weeks for you to learn the more complex ones. Maybe the more maybe to, if you want a lot of finesse with twisting, for example, I would say it could take a little bit longer. It depends on how disciplined you are as well, but it's not a high volume of training. We really want women to take it slow and to, you just train 20 minutes Monday through Friday, you rest on the weekends, and we also give you a week of complete rest. Generally, if you still have a period, is during your period week, and usually
Right.
after that rest you come back a lot stronger. Your muscles become a lot stronger because they've been resting for a while, they've been basically recovering, and then when you come back
Mhm.
you're able to perform a lot more motions. That's what you usually find. um,
So funny as we're sitting here talking, you're talking about these exercises. I don't know why it's like naturally my body's
yeah.
like like squeezing down there. I'm like,
Squeezing, yeah.
oh, is this like I wonder like how tight my kegels are. Like, do my walls go together if I just think about it? And then it's like little pulses while we're having this conversation. I'm
I
like, okay,
love it.
Sarah, like
It's very common.
relax.
It's very common. It's
That's
very common.
hilarious.
Yeah, it's
So what if you
amazing.
don't have like a partner though? What if like somebody is a single person who doesn't have a partner to practice on, but they still want to do the program? Is it still one of those things where it's like you can learn it, you can kind of feel that you're mastering it, that you're
Mm.
developing it without the practice of,
I Oh yeah, I would actually say that your fingers are much better tools than a penis when it comes to giving you
okay.
feedback, because you can feel it in your fingers and you're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I'm actually moving the right." Because with men, like once they feel something pulsing on them, they're going to be really pleased anyway. So it's like,
Yeah.
"No, no, but baby, like give me actual feedback." But the problem is with your men, obviously, once they start feeling that pleasure, they're like they just want to get going, right? It's hard for them to
Yeah.
be like sane and serious and be like, no, no, yeah, baby, you're definitely squeezing level 2 and the horizontal one. So, so you're like, all right, but your fingers are going to be extremely good tellers of what you're moving and what you're not moving. So I would say absolutely. We've had this
Okay.
woman, which I love her. We'll call her M for this, but M, she's 76 years old and she's single and mingling. She's just, she's having a lot of sex with a lot of different partners. She is incredible. We call her our hot grandma. She's amazing, and she is super diligent with her training. She loves
Mhm.
training, and now we're developing an advanced course for some of our advanced trainers that are doing like techniques that are just, twisting on the at the bottom of the vagina to one side and twisting at the end on another. So we call that ringing the penis. So like, and
Mm.
she's like, she loves it. She loves it. She's trying everything with every new partner, and she's just wowing everyone. She's incredible.
Oh
So
my god, that's who I
that's
wanna be in my
yes,
70s.
yes, I know,
Like
right? I know, right? She's amazing. She's a
oh, I
sweetheart
love
too.
that.
It's
I love
incredible.
that for her, like, you get
I
it,
love that.
girl.
Oh,
Fuck,
oh, she's the best. She's the best.
that's
She's a
so
total badass.
fascinating.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, I feel like I need to try this program. I feel like I need to learn these skills. Like, don't get me wrong, I'd like to think I'm pretty good in bed as it is, but I feel like I really need to like this is like next level stuff of like, can I do this and can they tell the difference? I'll have to like call back some of my old ex daters and just be like, okay, can you tell the difference like now compared to like then? What do you notice that's different? See if it's
Yeah.
working. Oh,
It's incredible, and it's great for you as well. Like, of course, men are gonna have a lot of pleasure with it. You can imagine if you're like a vaginal acrobat, it's gonna be fantastic for them.
mm-hmm.
But for you as a woman, it has so many benefits. So naturally, like again, a strong pelvic floor naturally boosts your libido. You're gonna get hornier faster. If you feel like your sex drive has dropped a little bit, that's gonna get progressively better.
Mm-hmm.
Your sex satisfaction, your involuntary muscle contractions during orgasms. Every time we orgasm, our pelvic floor involuntarily contracts. Now, the stronger your pelvic floor, the harder those contractions are, the better your orgasms get. So that's amazing all around, because even if you're having a clitoral orgasm, you're still having those pelvic floor spasms or contractions, and those are
Right.
getting heightened by this training. So that's incredible as well. And something that has happened for most of us that were training this is certain positions that we weren't really fond of become really good. So for example, I never was a fan of being on top. I was never That was never my jam really. But when I started doing Pompoir, there are some techniques, for example, the milking technique on top of a partner, that being on top would just send us both to orgasm really fast, and it was just very, very intense. And then some other women were telling me about the spooning position and doing the whipping motion. Whipping is sort of like what you'd imagine. You're basically squeezing each level of your vaginal canal subsequently and in a fast rhythm. So you're basically whipping the penis, and it's just very, very pleasurable for both of you. But specifically, it seems like we run a bit of a small study, not big enough to
Mhm.
be statistically significant, of course. I'm a big nerd, by the way. I talk about this stuff for ages. But
I love
um,
it.
we ran a bit of a study on the women that we were training, and we asked them to pair different positions with different exercises that they had mastered. And the one of the connections that we didn't know would be so amazing was the spooning position with the whipping technique. And then we as trainers started testing that out ourselves, and it was just incredible, because it felt like a different type of orgasm that stemmed from what we call the C spot, right? The cervix. And
Mhm.
we didn't know that was possible. So we're finding out more and more things, that more and more different kinds of orgasms, you could say, depending on the position and depending on the exercise that you're doing. So it's just incredible. So that's why
So
I
do you
encourage everyone to
find
do it. Mhm.
yeah, do you find though then for like this type of technique, if there is, like you said, like okay, like the milking one, the other one, do you find though that like the sex tends to be a little bit slower and more intimate when like you're doing these? Because I mean, like I picture some of these guys out there. I mean, I know guys I dated in the past that I mean, like they're jackrabbit fuckers and like, you know, they think that they're, you know, hitting it. But I'm thinking like if somebody's going pretty fast, or even as a girl being on top, sometimes you're going so fast to try to like get them there. Then I'm thinking like, is that technique something that in a fast rhythm is something you can still do, or is it something where it's like you can actually slow down sex, and even though it's slowed down because you're able to do these things, that's where it's like you're getting that intensity and like that heightened amount of pleasure from?
So I love that question. So you actually both, I would say, because
Okay.
some exercises are designed to be performed faster when the moment when sex becomes really passionate, really fast, and really sort of wild. And some
Hmm.
techniques are a little bit more slower, I've never been into tantric sex before. I'm actually getting into that practice a little bit now, but a lot of my students were, and they were like, this is fantastic for a proper like vaginal sort of massage. So like sometimes she would tell me that her and her partner would just, he would be inside of her and she would just start performing certain exercises in a very slow motion. But again, part of this training is also what we call versatility training, and we want you
Mhm.
performing the exercises faster and slower to be able to perform it in different moments during sex in any sort of rhythm that you want. Some women perform these exercises while they're listening to music, trying to follow certain beats. So they will change
Yeah.
songs and they will do it through rhythms of songs that are a little
Yeah.
bit faster and rhythms that are a little bit slower. So I find that fascinating. I love that too. But it's just
Yeah.
everyone makes the practice so much their own that I
Yeah.
would say you can use it for pretty much anything, which is the best
Okay.
thing about it. Yeah.
I love that. So I do love what you said before, like for women who maybe um, have a hard time finding their G spot, or maybe they've never found it. So doing this
Hmm.
practice and
Hmm.
building that up will help somebody who's never discovered that part of them, will help increase that. I never
Yes.
found my G spot until I was probably 40, 39. And
Hmm.
I mean, I'm only, actually, I don't even know how old I am. I think I'm 42. I couldn't tell you. I'm either 41 or 42, but I've only like in the last like 3 years, a guy happened to find it with his fingers, and it was like all of a sudden this like faucet of this tap was turned on after it was discovered, and like now it's just very easily discovered in the exact right position for me that I can have that orgasm. But it was just one of those weird things that it was like kind of fluky to start, and I didn't know how to like find it, control it. So I love this then, because I think of how many women out there have sex that they're not having internal orgasms. They're going through
Yes.
the motions. Sex and intimacy still feels good even if you're not having an orgasm, because we
Yes.
naturally want to connect with somebody. But if
Yes.
there's actually a way that we can develop our own internal sexuality and orgasms for ourselves, and then we're actually the ones in control of it when we're in the bedroom, and not waiting on somebody else to find it for us, or on a guy to just by fluke come across that spot, which is what happened to me, right? So I love that, because I think
Oh,
like
that's
so
the
many people
best.
are not having good sex.
So that's the absolute best. Like that's truly my favorite part of this, that when women come back to us and they say,
Mhm.
I didn't know I could feel penetration. I didn't know penetration could feel this good, because they were
Mhm.
used to clitoral stimulation to be able to come. But now what this training does is it connects you with different regions of your internal vaginal canal, right? So
Yeah.
when you start stimulating that, you start realizing which spots are more pleasurable to you, and then you can basically design your own orgasm, right? Like design your orgasm. So every time you're having sex, you can pulse the area that you find more pleasurable in each position. So it's just it, yeah, I love that, and I love that for
Yeah.
you too. But
Oh,
that's yeah, that's incredible. Yeah,
oh,
that's
I just need to find a partner to like, continue to do that with. But that's why I'm thinking, I'm like, okay, I was like, if I'm gonna start, because I'm totally gonna like, I'm gonna dive into your program here. We're gonna have that conversation afterwards. And I'm like,
yes.
okay, maybe I just need to do a Tinder profile that just says looking for a man to donate his penis to me to test out for like sexual purposes. Has to be willing to,
Oh my
like,
God. Well, so this is
but
great. I love that. Some people wanted me to, some of my friends jokingly said, you know what you should do on Tinder? Women should have like a check mark of, goddess certified. Like they have like, they can do
yeah.
vaginal acrobatics.
Yeah. Tantric
It's so
trained,
silly.
Pompoir trained, like all
That's
these little certificates of like what we're
oh
trained
my
in for
God.
sexual sacred sexuality. Like, this is what you're getting.
That's
Like,
crazy. That's crazy. But yeah, hey, like I'm not single. If I was single, absolutely I'd be like, hey, I just need a good penis to, to try some stuff.
yeah. Yeah, it's research. This is strictly for research
Absolutely.
purposes,
For
right?
science. It's for science. You're taking one for the
Absolutely.
team. I love that.
Absolutely.
I
Okay, so I
love
have
that.
to ask then, you're in a relationship. So the first guy that you ever tried these techniques on, is that who you're still with? Did he stick around? He's like, I'm never leaving?
Oh my God. Well, the sex was the only great thing about that relationship.
Ah,
So no, you know how that goes, right?
oh, I
Usually
do.
everyone has a relationship with sex is amazing and that's why it's so hard to leave. But then the
Yeah.
rest is just a mess.
Yeah.
That was kind of the case for that relationship. And now it's kind of the now was able to find the best of both worlds, really. So that's the great part. But yeah, this is where I was able to kind of realize that this could be. So the first relationship, he wasn't the one that encouraged me to make this a thing. My second, my
Mhm.
current one, was the one who was very entrepreneurial, and he thought this is going to help so many people. So I, yeah, it's been great. But definitely, I always say this. I feel like I want. I don't want to pimp anyone out, but I wish if one of my friends were like, "Hey, why don't you start like a Tinder profile and just say I just need penises to try some stuff with?" But I think that would be
Yeah.
pimping, so I don't think I can do that. Just yet.
You know what? There is like so the very first guy that ever consistently was able to find my G spot with his fingers. I had said to him so many times, I'm like, I have and like not to make myself sound really bad, but I mean like I'm very open sexually and I mean I don't even know what my body count is. It's well over probably 70, 80. I don't even know. And like and I said to him, it is absolutely sad that out of the let's just exaggerate, the hundreds of guys that I've been with, that only one of them has been able to find my G
Yes,
spot with his fingers. There should be training, like live action training for men to go to have other men teach them how to find a woman's G spot because I have been with guys since him and I've given them the direction and I've tried to teach them they don't listen. They don't slow it down. They don't take direction from women. So I'm like, and I said this to him, I was like, you need to teach this. You need to offer this to other men that you will
yes,
teach them how to find a woman's G spot because so many of them still don't know how at the age of 40, 50, and they're still in there free flowing with their fingers like they're banging a hot dog around the sides of a wall. So I think that if women can have hands on training for us to learn how to master our G spot orgasms for the benefit of the pleasure of them, then there should be some sort of training that they can go to learn how to master finding a woman's G spot, properly fingering them to make them orgasm. So I get the whole pimp thing out. I think that it should work on both sides.
absolutely. There's this guy that I follow. I think his name is Dawn of Desire or something like that, and he actually he's a British accent, incredibly handsome, and
Yeah.
he's teaching you with a live toy how to properly masturbate a woman. And I thought that was fantastic. But there is a lot of training. Just men should be able to go and get and find it out there. But there's a lot of training. Yeah.
Yeah, they
So
don't. Like, it's like
they
they
don't.
have no desire whatsoever to learn, master. They think if we get on top of them, we make noise, it sounds like we're having an orgasm and they finish, then that's all there is to it, right? Like, not a lot of men are very in tune with their own personal sexuality that they would even think outside of themselves to be like, what is it that you need? And it actually, the funny thing is, so I did an interview with a woman that, Marianne, and she was telling me about, oh, I can't even remember, I'm going to butcher it, but the different types of sexuality that we have. So, you know how we have our five love languages, but then we also
Mhm.
have our sex languages. And I think there's like
Mhm.
five or seven of them.
Oh
And,
wow.
yeah, like there's kink, um, like sensuality, like sensual, the fuck, there's a whole bunch of them, and I was like, that makes so much sense because not everybody gets off and connects on the same level in bed. Some men like sensual sex, where others feel like it's cheesy and they think that they're making love. And if a girl
Mm.
likes that, oh, she must love me and now she wants to marry me. And it's like,
Mm.
maybe we just like the softer stuff and that's what builds our orgasms.
Here
Some
they are. I
women
think I
like,
found them. So you have fun, you have desire, you have pleasure, you have patience, and celebration. That's the five sex languages that
okay,
I just found here. But I'm guessing fun has to do with kink. Maybe
yeah,
you
maybe. Yeah.
maybe.
So yeah, it was just I when she said that to me, I thought it was fascinating and I was like,
Yeah.
that makes sense. Some women are into BDSM. Some
Mm-hmm.
women don't like it at all. I've heard some men say that they cannot do it because they were taught never to hit a woman and it doesn't work for them.
Mm-hmm.
And other
Mm-hmm.
men
Mm-hmm.
love it. So everybody has different
Exactly.
things that we're into. And I think like if a man actually cares about learning a woman's sex languages, not the love languages, but our sex languages, and vice
Yes.
versa, they would just enhance intimacy in a different way. And then, I mean, add in these Pompoir exercises, and then, like, ooh, you're done.
But I
right?
love that because I feel like overall we're just not communicating enough. And I wonder if
Mm.
generationally that's changing because I haven't, to be fair, I haven't had that many sexual partners. Again, I was a late bloomer and a serial monogamist, so I'm the worst of both worlds in that sense. But I was very lucky in terms of sex, really. But I wonder if that's a generational thing. I didn't know you were in your 40s because you don't look it in the
Oh, thank
slightest.
you.
So I thought, well, I guess maybe the men now, younger generations, they're a lot more, they want women to have a great time as well, because that's
Mhm.
also a point of pride for everyone, right? We want our partner to have a great time in sex with us. So I've been very lucky, and in fact, to connect this with Pompoir, it was, for me, I was a little bit afraid that Pompoir would turn me into a dominant role, and I've never been dominant, and I don't like that side. I'm a business owner. I've always been, the type A, and
Mhm.
generally those types of, generally, very generally, there's obviously exceptions, but generally those types of women in bed, they want nothing but the opposite. They don't want to be dominating in the bedroom as well, and that was very much the case for me. However, for me, Pompoir was not like that at all. It gave me a lot of pleasure, and it still gives me a lot of pleasure, but for some reason I was able to still, because I can see how what it does to him and how amazing he feels about it. I was still able to connect it to a submissive role, I guess, in my case, whereas other women connected very much. So we've had women who've been working through sex trauma with some therapists as well, and we spoke to their therapists as well, and what they were telling us is that for them, Pompoir was a way for them to regain their power over men in sex. So I love just how everyone can make it so unique, right? You
Mhm.
have both extremes. For some women, this is very much an empowerment practice, and something that, I take control of my orgasms, and we're gonna do it the way that I want to, because I can direct your penis however I want with my vagina. Um, and in fact, some women actually do something that's incredible that I found out just recently, is that some women do, they delay their men's orgasms by doing a technique called locking. So they lock the penis to a point when they're about to come, and they prevent them from having an orgasm, or they delay their orgasm, so they're using it as a teasing technique, which is insane to me, and then they release whenever they want to. So that's very powerful for some
Ah.
women. And so I just love the fact that because there are so many techniques, again, you have 27 different moves, um,
Yeah.
you can just use them however you want in bed, which is just really exciting. When I hear stories that are so diverse, it's almost hard to run a proper statistical study because everyone uses it in whatever way they want to. So it's just very interesting.
Oh, I love that.
Mhm.
Um, okay, so for people who are listening, say this is a training that they do want to learn and they want to be able to reach out. What roughly does this program cost for them? Like for anybody listening that wants to know, and where can they find you?
So our program is a one-time payment. You're not locked into anything. Is $400, but today for your listeners, we're gonna give them a code where they can save
Okay.
$100, so they'll get it at 300 at 299 with I don't know what code you want. Do you want to do bacon 100? does that
Yeah, I
does that
like
work?
that.
So we'll
Let's
do
do that.
with bacon 100 at checkout. You go to goddess.com, and that's goddess.com. At checkout, you can put bacon 100 and you'll save $100. And it's a one time payment. You get access to every single exercise. All of them are animated. You're not going to see a live person doing it. First, because they're muscles that are inside of us, so you wouldn't
Hmm.
really understand it if someone was showing it to you. It's all illustrated, all animated, very beautiful. So if you have a little one walk in the room, they won't be able to tell what's going on in your screen. You have all the PDF guides to print them. You have a schedule that you can also print. Whether if you have no internet, you have access to our community. You have access to me. You can actually schedule one-on-one training if you need any extra help with me. So one-time payment 300 with the code bacon 100 at checkout. So yeah, that's
That's
how you find
amazing.
us.
I was actually going to ask that. Is it videos? Is it just stuff you read? But you completely answered that question while explaining that. And
It's
so,
all
is it a
videos, yeah.
Facebook community? Is it an Instagram community that everybody joins?
It's a Facebook community. It's a private community that you join. We post. You can post all your questions anonymously as well if you want to. You don't have to share your name or anything like that. And it's usually me answering them specifically. And sometimes, if you have a special case, we'll give you a special program as well if you want. If you have trouble with some exercise, but it's always going to be. Every woman has been able to master every single technique. And we're now working on the second course, which is even more advanced. And again, it's all through our branding. It's all animated. And because I'm a nerd, as I said, I'm also a history buff a little bit, and I really like Greek mythology. So the course is very much designed to mimic the Greek goddesses. So you have the Artemis pillar, the Aphrodite pillar, the Athena pillar, and you go through all the pillars in a very gamified way to understand each unique exercise. So it's just very nerdy, basically.
Oh, I love that though. I love that.
Yeah.
I think like tying in history, tying in some background to it actually makes it so much more sacred, but then also very genuine and very authentic to what it is that you're actually learning, right?
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. And what I wanted when I was creating the course, first of all, the reason why we created it this way was because when we were training women one on one, we spent 2 years training them one on one. Every time I designed an actual vagina and explained things, they would understand the exercises much faster because they had some visuals, right? But then I realized that a lot of women, they weren't comfortable talking to someone so privately about that. So they
mhm,
wanted a course that they could follow whenever they wanted, right? And this course, you have it forever. So in all the updates, because right now we're releasing 2 more lessons that you would get automatically if you purchase it today, because all the updates you get them for free. So and when we started creating it in this way, in this very visual, very artistic, it's very pretty, very beautifully illustrated way, it just became that much more friendly. And I feel like when it comes to sex education for women, either we don't have anything and like we're not taught to
mhm,
talk about sex at all, or we have porn. And all the problems with porn, how it doesn't depict a very realistic portrait of sex. So I'm like, where is sex education for the rest of us that just
mhm.
really like sex, want to have even more pleasure from sex, and want to be better at it? Like, where is sex for the rest of us? Why can we talk about it like it's an exercise program? Why can we talk about it like we talk about everything else? So it's very practical, very friendly, and very very artistic. So it's very friendly and yeah. So if you're not comfortable sometimes with with looking at porn and stuff like that, there's no real life images at all in the course.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you for sharing that. And I mean, honestly, thank you so much for like introducing this technique to me and like coming on here and sharing. I'm so fascinated and I honestly cannot wait to actually
Oh my
try this.
god,
So,
I'm
for
so
everybody
excited for
listening,
you to
I
try.
highly recommend to grab this program, give it a try, and I'm going to get it and I will share along my journey and,
Yes, absolutely.
yeah, what I learned from it, what I love, how it's going, feedback eventually, hopefully from like a real person that I can try it with. But yeah, thank you so much. Like, I'm absolutely love it. Love this conversation and love learning all the different stuff that is out there for women to really empower themselves when it comes to sex. Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me, Shah. This has been awesome. Thank you so much, and I really want to see how you progress with the course. I'm so excited. You're gonna get it so fast, and you're gonna be an absolute crazy, crazy vaginal gymnast. So it's
Good.
gonna be.
And then I'm gonna lock down a partner forever with my sex techniques.
Oh my god, it's gonna be great.
Oh,
Thank you so
I love
much.
it. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, and thanks to everybody listening. We will talk to you guys later.